We can go ahead and get started. The video stream should be live. So it was just, I'm Shona Simpson. I'm the chair of the PSO for this year. And it is so nice to see all of you here. I'm so glad that you all could make it. Again, I just want to welcome you. This is the first of the coffee talks with the deans. This is the one that's sort of just general questions for the whole school. And so without any further ado, I would like to introduce Dean Martin Farrell, and he's going to take it from here.
And thank you all for being here. Thanks, folks, for being here. We have, I think, 3 times as many connecting remotely. And just to tell y'all and them, Kurt said there's about a 20-second delay. So just bear with us. Seems like we tried different video feed option each time. This one is new. Seemed like it would be good. We'll see how it goes. I don't know if we're going to handle a 20-second delay. Shona mentioned the sort of coffee talk phenomenon. These are relatively new. We started doing them 2 years ago. We think we hit on a sequence last year that worked for folks, but I just ask you up front to pay attention to this one and subsequent ones and let us know. We're trying to provide these at the right spots in the semester and year, but if you feel like you're needing one sooner or at a different time, we'd like to know. We will follow this general one up with arts program specific ones over the next 3 weeks. And then we do another round in January, and those are principally focused to our seniors, but everybody's welcome at all of them. But sort of what seniors and senior families can expect from the second semester, the road to graduation, and beyond. But would love to hear if you'd like more of these or fewer, whatever feels right. Shona mentioned this is the general one. So we really are fielding any manner of question this morning, except those questions that are specific to a certain student, your student, or specific to an adult. So if you're having a concern or an issue with one of us, or I think sometimes a teacher, this is not the place for those questions, and ask you to sort of honor that, and we can help you figure out the best way to address those if you want to see us after or email. I wanted to make one note about our program, one of the many ways that we're special. Because you all have so many different connection points, actually, I don't know if we're really special in this way, but because you have so many different connection points for your student and trying to figure out to whom to go when you have questions, we really do rely on our learning management system, Canvas, and our school email system as our primary modes of communication with you and them. And this is really a plea to you to help us get your students using these media as their primary communication tools for working with us and getting course information. So if we could get your help with that would be great. In terms of your own connection to those media, everyone now should have received communication from the registrar about setting up proxy access for you. The new families got this in the orientation period, and then returning families got this in an email this week. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I have a handout to give you, and I will also send it back out as an attachment in my follow-up notes to this today. I know that it's been posted on the parent Facebook page. This proxy mechanism is a way to get you direct access to your student's account, which is right and proper in the high school, even though we're on a college campus. And it also helps us reconcile in some cases we have multiple email addresses on record for you, and it helps us reconcile the email communication that you want to use when we're communicating about something. So if you could follow that proxy setup process if you have not yet, that would be a big help. Proxy question?
It was extremely confusing to try to set that up.
I'm
I
sorry.
don't even know if I did it right or not, but I work on the web all day long, and I don't think I got it right.
Well, that's good feedback. If you can, after this is over, share your name with me, and I can connect you to the registrar and make sure that yours is set up correctly. And I'm happy to direct those questions.
We also, like, we already had a connection from last year, so I'm not quite sure why it's different or
It's changing because of our insistence that you have direct access to your student account. And we're often in a position here because we're on a college campus and we've adopted softwares and systems that are often made for a college reality. We have been trying to find workarounds with the systems that we have to give you that access. And so proxy is what we've landed on. We think it's going to be better, but this is the transition year, and the transition is not helped by the fact that we're making the transition after the start of school. So I'm sorry for your difficulties, and I'll be glad to help try to resolve them and make sure that you're in the system. So give me your name, please, if you have a question about this at the end. I think that would yes. The last point connected to email and Canvas. Something that came to my attention that I just assume because I'm sort of in this world day to day. We don't have a budget for substitute teachers. And I didn't realize that many of you didn't know that. And so the way that we handle teacher absences is that we typically cancel classes if a teacher is sick, and we will post something on the door. The teacher will communicate directly with his or her students, again through email and Canvas, and set up the assignments for the day. If we have longer term absences connected to some sort of emergency, we will take different measures to help mitigate those absences from class. But particularly with the one-off absences, it's just a matter of canceling classes and then having the teachers and students communicate. So just be aware of that. If you get a report that chemistry was canceled today, it's sort of the way that we have to deal with that situation. And if you have questions about longer term absences, reach out to me if you don't feel like you're getting the communication you need. Thanks for receiving that. We'll open it up to general questions now. We have about an hour and a half, and I then forgot the most important thing. Brock Snyder is here with me, as is Mackenzie Wilkins. Brock's our Associate Dean of High School Academics, and Mackenzie's our new college counselor. And then Catherine McMillan is our new Associate Director for High School Life. And she's joined today from the Student Affairs side. So we welcome your questions. Yeah, please.
All right, so there's a new, and this only applies to those dorming, but there is a new system in place about signing in at night from 10 to 11. And apparently if they don't, or they forget, or they oversleep, they're going, up to 3 times they get infractions. As a mother who has a daughter who, on the rare occasion she gets a night, sometimes she crashes out for the night. I mean, those dance schedules, those art schedules, they get crazy, and if they have a Wednesday where they're done at 6, she might be asleep. Are they also doing bed checks still? Because I'm being told that the whole reason they're doing this is to mitigate bed checks, which makes me really uncomfortable even with a high school senior. I really want somebody to make sure they're where they're supposed to be at night. And I have to say, I've had a lot of students in my car driving around. Every student I've talked to seems really upset about this policy. They're not upset about the drug policies. They're not upset about that stuff. Yeah, but they have to go from 10 to, the 10 to 11 thing seems to be really, really upsetting these kids? Is there
Okay.
something can be done?
Yep, so the kind of way the policy works is we're asking them to come down and check in between 10 and 11. However, if they go to bed early or they've fallen asleep, they're not getting written up. We're going to check on them, make sure they're where they're supposed to be. We are having students that are in other people's rooms or hanging out, and so we're working on accountability with students and just asking them to come if they want to go to bed early, no issues. And again, we're not writing them up. We want kids to go to bed early.
I mean, because
And then-
sometimes mine will forget, or she'll like be like, I'm gonna take a 20-minute nap, and then it's out for the night.
So when we go check on them, if they're asleep or we
Okay.
are sick or things like that, we're not giving
It's
any
not
kind of
gonna
infractions,
be-
not at all.
Do they
Do they
get
check
3 of
in
those and
earlier?
then they get an infraction?
No.
Because that seems to be
So-
what the students are believing the
That's what they-
policy
yeah,
is.
that's what
Right.
mine
That's
thought
what every
also.
kid I've talked to has been like, if you fall asleep 3 times and forget to tell somebody, you get an infraction. An infraction's kind of a big
Right.
deal here.
So no infractions are being given for kids that are asleep. The only time is when they're not checking in and they're in other people's rooms or, you know,
Are we still doing bed checks though? I mean, shouldn't they all be in their room? Like, that's how it's worked for the first 2 years, I know for sure. They were bed checking them every night.
so, no, they are doing the curfew check and then they're monitoring the floors to make sure that the kids are on the appropriate floors during that time.
Okay.
Can they check in earlier?
Yes.
They wanna go to bed
So,
at
yes,
they
8
can-
o'clock,
they
they
decide
can
to
check
go to
in
bed
at
So they
8.
come in and check in earlier at 8 o'clock, and then we're going to their room to make sure that they are in their rooms. So if they check in early, we are accounting for those individual students as well as students that don't come and tap in. And then we're making sure that the students that are tapped in are where they're supposed to be.
I want to verify something, because again, when you hear it from a student, it's a little confusing.
Mhm.
But I heard, say, you have a student that checks in maybe at 7 o'clock. They think they're in for the night, they're exhausted, they're tired, and then they wake up at 9:30 and they're awake. If you guys come to their room at 10, that's an automatic infraction. Is that true?
No.
Okay, because the kids have been very
Yeah.
upset.
So again, it's more about the accountability piece and kind of asking them to check in and let us know what they're doing after they're supposed to be in the building at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And getting in the habit of letting us know that they're there. And then if a student forgets or they wake up at 9:30, it's a conversation with the staff member checking in with them,
Okay.
not a written infraction.
Because, like,
Right.
it seems to be a major thing.
I'm just wondering if there's a possibility that the resident staff that's communicating with the students when they are coming to the room are communicating in such a way that the student is interpreting it differently than what it is intended. Because
Agreed.
the same thing happened to ours.
Yep.
And I had said, just check in earlier. And, but she was literally woken up and it was a whole thing, and this was within the first week.
So if,
So-
and we actually, when we were having so many kids not checking in, after the first week is when we kind of set this in motion, saying, hey, please be accountable. And I had a conversation with all of the residential staff yesterday about their approach and the way that they're speaking to students, because it's unacceptable for them to have that tone, especially with waking kids up. And so I addressed that yesterday. It seems this week, Monday through Friday, things have gone a lot better. Kids that are sleeping are not being woken up, and that the kids seem to be in the hang of it. So I think the initial shock of the first 3 days of we need to check in, and then kind of now with, we have not written any, just so you guys know, we have not written any infractions for this at all. However, the accountability, we are now down to about 5 students out of 200 plus students that are not checking in. And those 5 are having teachable moments and conversations. But then the others, we have not had any issues since then.
I just wanted to check, what is the bed check or room check procedure? What happens? Is it a knock on the door or they,
No, so
like if they're
anytime,
sleeping?
yeah,
How
so
does that happen?
anytime that we have a room check, there's like 3-step process. First, we knock on the door. Most of the time, a roommate or a student says, come in. If no one answers, we knock again, slightly open the door and say, this is Catherine McMillan, I'm coming in. Open the door and to make sure that those students.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of a 3-step process
Yeah, so
to
if they're
give
like a
kids.
super deep sleeper, they'll just see that they're sleeping and
Yeah.
move on?
Yep.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Have they had any fire drills or anything for the dorms?
For the dorms, no.
I-
That is coming soon.
I have a question, because the fire drills tend to go off a lot. The burnt popcorn is a real problem with the thing. With the new sign-in procedure, how are they making sure that all of them are getting back to their appropriate floors? I know a couple of years ago, we had kids setting them off on purpose so that they could be on different floors, different levels, different rooms, because there was no
Right.
accountability at night.
So like we
So-
have had one burnt popcorn already this year, and then anytime that we have that, we are doing door-to-door checks for every single kid to account for they
When
are
they,
in their
when they
rooms.
evacuate the entire building, though, they're
Yes.
checking them all?
Yep.
Okay, because they had a problem with that in the past where
Yep.
there were.
So we have some email questions, and I will read one and address it. This is about, particularly with visual arts and music students, how would a student maintain a level of physical fitness? How would they establish a workout plan if that's something they wanted to do? One of the great things about being a high school and college campus is you have the resources. We have a fitness center on campus that's open to all of our high school students. It's free, it's a part of the student fees that are paid. Tap in with the one card. In that fitness center, which I think I use and Dr. Farrell use at times too, nice machines, great stretching area, all-purpose room. They did close down the basketball court for classroom space related to some renovations that were happening. So that's one avenue. And students can go to the fitness center, they can work with a personal trainer, schedule a time with a personal trainer and establish a routine. Or they can go as they come and go as they please, they're working out on their own. The other option that does exist particularly for the visual arts and music, automatically a student that comes to us that doesn't have a health and PE full credit, we enroll in the wellness course. Fall semester is kind of typical high school health. Spring semester is physical activity, which we use the fitness center quite a bit. I know that we repeatedly say we enroll students on a year basis, so we don't do semester enrollment. That is one course that we could enroll a visual art or music student in for the spring semester for a half a credit, and that would at least guarantee one workout session a week, and part of that requirement of that class is they also log 2 hours in addition to that 1 hour class meeting. We use the fitness center, we use the activity field beside the fitness center. For example, last year, students, they tend to gravitate towards an activity. Flag football was the craze. The year before that, it was ultimate frisbee was the craze. Kickball has been the craze. So we provide, and in that class we provide a tour with the personal trainer to go through the equipment and how they use it properly. So those are two avenues. Students can do it on their own, or if they were interested in having that dedicated time on a Wednesday in the spring semester, we could enroll them in that class.
Excuse me, Brock, one other thing
Yes.
about that. There used to be yoga classes and things like that at the Wellness
Yes.
Center as well?
Yes, yeah,
that
there's
people can
scheduled
sign up
yoga, Pilates, that still happens.
To piggyback on that, does the fitness center have lockers?
Yes, and you would need to provide your own, well, no, you can rent a lock or you can provide your own lock. Okay. Any other questions about it?
It is hard. My student's in music as well, but before she came here, she ran cross country and track and swam. So it's a hard balance to find. I think a lot of the students do seem to find it. They run together, or they go for walks together, or they play flag football at lunch, or so sometimes it takes a little while to find that balance, but if it's important to your student, there are ways to do it. And I think there's some talk of a running club getting started as
Yeah.
well.
That's what I was gonna ask,
Yeah.
is there some proactive way to get people that have similar interests such as running or yoga or whatever to kind of figure that out? I know they'll eventually figure it out, but it might be cool at the beginning,
So
especially for
we-
new students.
We offer clubs started by students, like running club. We actually have a meditation club this year started by a student. So we asked them to reach out to the residential life team with 3 other students that are interested, and then we help find them an advisor and kind of help them schedule and maintain a way so that they can participate together in an activity like that.
Mine wants to do badminton.
Love it.
I have a question about the clubs. Some of them, I think, start at 10 o'clock after curfew. So for the group, I think it's the food, is that where the kids perform
Yep.
to each other? But some of the community kids can't come because it's sort of past curfew. And I think there are a couple of other clubs, and I know that I've heard kids saying that they would love to be able to go to certain things, but that they're at times when they're inaccessible to the community students.
So I definitely think that if it's in our,
Especially with, like, I was thinking of the spectrum, I think that's probably very important.
okay, so let me look into that. I don't see why a commuter could not participate in that, especially before in-room time. And so I'll look at why and then see how we can get that changed.
Some of it is the time. My
Yeah.
daughter was very
Yeah.
interested.
It's a little bit late,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's because you've got kids, I mean, fall dance has already kicked in, you've got rehearsals going till 9:15 or even 9:45 this week on campus. So that's the reason they try to, like, especially when Nutcracker rolls around, those rehearsals go extremely late some nights. They all have to be in the building by 10, so.
We had a question here about driver's ed.
Oh, sad. That was so good.
Sure. We used to not offer driver's ed many years ago. Then we started offering driver's ed probably 6 or 7 years ago, and now we've stopped offering driver's ed. Okay. When we did offer it, it was offered through our UNCSA police. They took on that initiative. It became logistically cumbersome and very cost ineffective for us because it was only held on weekends, and there was, I think, 5 or 6 classes you had to attend. If you missed one, you couldn't finish the course. You think about your child's schedule, right? It just didn't work. So we stopped doing it. We made a decision that it just wasn't in anybody's really best interest for that. So students have now taken upon themselves and families to do private instruction.
Greenbrier was really good.
Forsyth Drive is very good too.
There we
So
go.
there are good options.
There was a question if the health center schedule is available for students to see. There is a kind of a skeleton schedule on the website, and I know they publish times of yoga classes. I don't know how frequently that is updated on the web, and or if it functions more as kind of an internal document for them that gets posted around campus. But they do have a schedule, and there's a phone number for the wellness center on the website too, if you have a question about a particular day or time.
I'll just briefly address an email question because I think this is probably one people share. SAT, ACT prep courses.
That was my question.
We're coming from somebody else.
Yes.
Our SAT prep begins on September 22nd, which is a Sunday. It's a 2-Sunday commitment, the 22nd and 29th of September. The idea is leading up to the October 5th SAT, which is offered on campus just for UNCSA students.
And how do they register for that?
Registration will begin for the prep courses?
No, well, both.
Okay, prep courses registration starts Monday. I have an email sitting in my draft box that'll go out to students this afternoon.
Okay.
Sign up start Monday. You can register for the math component, 2 Sunday workshop, or the reading and writing component,
Or both.
or both. Okay, we've reduced it from 3 Sundays to 2 Sundays to try to accommodate schedules a bit better. All right, there is a cost associated with that. Part of that cost will include the SAT official prep book. Okay, the instructors are Mr. Bohannon and Ms. Yokley.
And how do you register for the SAT?
SAT,
They have it here
Online.
on campus,
yes.
but it's, UNCSA is not listed as an option on.
Well,
There's a
here's
code,
the-
there's a
here's the-
school code.
Here's the deal. So SAT and ACT registration happens on those websites. So College Boards for SAT or ACT.org for the ACT. If you were to search test centers before registering, you will not see UNCSA
Okay.
as a test center because it's only for our students.
Okay.
So once you're in the registration process and indicate that you're attached to UNCSA High School, you will be offered the test center,
Okay.
okay?
I'm so glad that came up. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
We're going somewhere else to take it.
You can change it.
Can I?
Yes, you
Okay,
can.
okay.
You still have time to
I didn't
change
even
it.
realize that it was possible to take it here.
The registration deadline is September the 8th.
Okay, I knew it was coming up.
Because I
But
registered.
some of the dates that the SAT is administered are not offered here.
That's right, that's the only time we do it this year. If you're gonna take it any other time in Winston-Salem,
What's the date on campus?
October 5th is here.
October 5th is here.
Okay.
Okay, but if you wanna take it at another listed published date, our students for the SAT register for Parkland High School.
Which is very close to here.
And they can get transportation from Student Life, and there's a handful of students that do that each time. ACT, it used to be at Parkland, they've moved it, is at Mount Tabor High School. Okay, and students can register, we will have transportation available to that site.
Are you sending out all this information?
We can, absolutely, we
Got
have.
a great note taker
yeah.
right here.
Also, just.
I'll type them up. You send them, you
You had a
scan them to
question?
me, I'll
I
type them up.
do, but I can wait with
Is it ACT, SAT related?
It is.
Yes.
If they've taken pre-SAT and pre-ACT, can you help them look and gauge which seem to make sense for them?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I would say to parents of juniors, early on in the junior year is a good opportunity to take the SAT and ACT.
Go ahead.
Figure out which one feels the best, which one produces the best score, and then moving forward, put all your energy into one or the other. It's not necessary to continue to take SAT and ACT.
But only the SATs on campus, so the
That's correct.
ACT they need to do it. not
That's
to-
right, that's correct.
And even if you've taken the pre-versions of those, it still makes sense to take the real thing or?
Yeah, I mean, you could look at your, like if you took the SAT, ACT plan or something as a junior or earlier on, and you wanna look at that pre-ACT, look at the PSAT, look at some ACT, SAT score
Compare.
comparisons and make it a decision that way. You know, students, the bandwidth for trying to do both on through the senior year really takes a toll on students. Yes.
For the SAT and ACT prep that's being offered the 22nd and the 29th, how do they pay for it? How much is it? And is it open to everyone?
Okay, yes, so let's start with, first of all, it's just SAT prep. We don't
Just
do a
SAT.
formal ACT. However, we do have ACT prep booklets in our office that we could give to students. Okay. Because we've reduced it to 2 sessions, the cost would be $75 for 1 session or $100 for 2 sessions, for both, okay?
You mean, by 2 sessions, you mean math and
Dang it.
English?
Yes, yes.
Other 50.
Oh, for 2 days.
That's right. Payment needs to happen in the office, and we don't swipe yet, so it would need to be cash or check.
Cash and check.
Made out to,
UNCSA.
And I can still change the testing center
Yes, if
after
you,
I register?
yes,
Okay,
yes, you can,
All right.
up to the deadline date.
okay, cool.
And, you know, I hate to even say this, but worst case scenario, we've had students.
I mean, if I have to, I'll take her.
So we've had
but
students show
it'd
up
be ideal
on
for
the,
you.
like on our testing date, only to see they're not on our roster
Yeah,
because
They were
their
some-
parent, understand,
Was-
registered for another site, right? And they've been freaking out.
Yeah.
Understandably, and we've been able to get on the phone, do some paperwork and to test them. But I hate to go there.
I'd like to not be responsible for that stress.
It is stressful, I'll say.
Is the October 6th date, is that for just the SAT or is that PSAT as well?
The essay, just the SAT.
Just the SAT,
Yes, the PSAT is going to be offered October 16th.
October 16th and somewhere else.
Here.
Oh, here.
We test our students.
What
Is
grades?
that juniors?
That's juniors, because we're going to offer the PSAT 9 and PSAT 10, appropriate grade level tests in the spring. Okay? And so, yeah, so the PSAT that we offer in October, that is the PSAT National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test.
which class do they take that in, which period?
We have separate testing, it's a we have a couple of date options. If we go, that's, I think that's the date we're going for. That's the date option. We'll have we'll have a morning and an afternoon test session. It's on a Wednesday.
Oh.
We worked with the arts
We work around the arts
programs
programs to figure
to
that
get
out.
kids taking it when they need to.
So if kids took the PSAT in 10th grade, do you suggest them taking it in 11th grade and then taking the SAT in 12th grade? 'Cause
Absolutely.
it
Well,
seems like you do it earlier.
well, no, I say the PSAT for 11th graders is important. It's great test prep. Even if you take the October, if you're a senior and you take the October SAT, right? You're not good. Seniors don't take the PSAT, right? So the PSAT for 11th graders is really some of the best SAT prep that you can have. The score report that you get online breaks down your score. It indicates, was it an algebra question you missed? You know, was it what questions did you miss in the critical reading? So you could go back, look at that test report, look at your test book, and do some test prep.
So
Okay.
I've heard some talk too, especially in California universities, that they've started looking at your PSAT scores as well as your SAT scores. Have you heard of that?
No, I haven't heard that. Not here. No.
I think a lot of the timing decisions that you make about testing has to do with how your student tests and prepares as well. I think it is individual. If it's a major stressor for your kid, I would have advice on how to time that out, you know, why put them through. So a lot of people do all of it and it's really not necessary.
Yeah, I would say we order the PSAT and MSQT test for juniors. We've already ordered those for every junior, okay? We really expect and want juniors to take that test for their own sake, but also for us, the little selfish reason, because we don't do standardized testing. We don't do end-of-course testing, right? So the data that we get helps us kind of gauge our students meeting benchmarks, right? So it's good for us as well. And
Sorry for the
that's-
question, but is there an equivalent in the ACT to the PSAT? Is there like a pre-ACT?
there is, and we have not offered that in the past, and
Is it that, but that's offered at Mount Tabor or somewhere else?
yes, and taking that could be a little challenging at, at another school, even if possible. But there's some really good, the test prep that's available now for SAT and ACT in the last 5 years, it's just amazing. Khan Academy does some great SAT prep. Princeton Review, my daughter, who went through this process, she did Princeton Review, seemed to help. It was a lot real-time class, but you didn't have to be there real time. You could go back and participate in the class at another time or watch the class. That combined with the SAT or ACT prep book, we encourage students that if there's a math problem that they've struggled with on the PSAT or they're working in the books, to take it to the Math Center, right? Get some help with Ms. Yoakley or Miss George.
I think we need to speak a little louder.
Okay. That's a problem.
Did you just give the school code number?
School code, this is important.
But let me say this. We send out all of this information, so you don't need to try to listen and jot all these dates and things down. I mean, let's give the code again.
The code, school code is 344438. That is our testing code. That's used when you register for the SAT. It'll be used when you register for the ACT. It's used on college applications. So if you ask one of our seniors, most of them know that 333 or 33444.
We don't need to register for PSAT.
No, that's already done. It's already done.
Yeah, we provide now for all of our students, all 9th graders are registered for the PSAT 9, all 10th graders, and this is all paid for too, PSAT 10 for 10th graders. Those both happen in the spring, and then all PSAT for our juniors. If you would like to do PSAT as a younger student, by all means, you can sign up for it. We've gone to the PSAT 9 and 10 because they're in the spring. It gets them a little more course knowledge and practice by the time they get to that test. And they're designed to essentially give you a practice experience for the PSAT at a content level that's more appropriate for a 9th or 10th grader. But by all means, if your child or you and your child want to sign them up for a PSAT before they're in 11th grade, you're certainly welcome to do that. I got a question about SAT prep courses. I guess there's a strings concert off campus that would preclude string students from participating in the second SAT prep course date. And the question was, could we offer prep courses on other dates? And the answer is unfortunately no. We're offering these on these 2 dates because it seems to work best for the most number of schedules. We've actually gone to 2 this year from 3 to try to accommodate more schedules. And we're just sorry that we can't accommodate every student. So that's the answer.
When you register the students automatically for PSAT 9 and 10, are you using their UNCSA email address? So I had to have an issue with a account. I mean, the website says you use your personal permanent email address, right? So I had one for Norris under his Gmail address, but I had to call them and have them merged so that he hadn't lost test scores from pre-UNCSA testing.
Right, so you're
So
talking
when
about logging on to College Board to get score reports?
Right, to get score reports and just to have them all in one
Right.
account.
We encourage students to use their UNCSA email.
Okay.
Because that's how we're communicating with them.
Uh-huh.
We encourage them to use it when they're registering for the SAT, the ACT, and on college apps.
Okay.
Okay. Now,
Because
if
the
you-
College Board says
but the
not
college,
to use your school email.
Well, right. And so what happens though is it's just that you've registered another school and you have to call and get tagged
Yeah.
our school.
Yeah. I mean, it was fine. It
Yeah.
was just like, I did have a day of panic until I
We
called
prefer,
them.
we prefer that they're used their UNCSA
Okay.
email.
But it would be with your transcript, correct? Your
Excuse me, the test scores are not on the transcripts.
No.
You sent them, you as a
Right.
parent.
So
must
you
send
have to
them.
have,
This is for,
you have to
Yeah.
have them all in one. Gotcha.
and back to the when you register students for the PSAT, it's really just ordering tests for
Yeah.
70 students,
Yeah.
right? It's not
Linked
ordering a
up.
test for
Right.
this student name, this
Yeah.
student name.
Yeah, I guess I didn't know, and so I went to log in to see his scores, and I was like, where did his other scores go? Oh my God. Which
But
we had been doing.
They did merge.
They
the
did merge
schools.
it, and it was
And that's what
fine,
we
so I-
found, and we've
yeah.
often, sometimes I've even sat with students to take care of that
Yeah.
on the phone. They're pretty helpful to do that.
So I have a senior and previous stuff, scores, personal email address. Are you saying call and change that?
I'm calling, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Call College
Call
Board?
the College Board.
College Board
And you
and change-
explain the situation that you have a student who took tests under
Yeah.
2 different email addresses, and then they merge them all, and they're all in one report.
Even though I just registered for SAT under her personal email address? Just talk to them and see if I can change that? Had no idea about that. That's all
would
new
be-
to me.
That would be, yeah, that would be ideal.
To call and try to change that to her
Would be ideal.
UNCSA email.
I mean, some of the issue we found is that, like, parents would use their email, and
Yeah.
so students didn't even know that email trying to log in, so they didn't know, so we've
Right.
tried to kind of consolidate that. And it's more of a cumbersome thing for a new senior
Yeah,
than it is for a 9th grader that's
Right.
been, gonna be, or has been here for 3 or
Brand new.
4 years,
Right,
or,
right,
so.
okay.
Thank you for your.
Yeah. Also, just want to mention, because I work at Wake Forest, there are test optional colleges and universities. So just to ratchet down the
Big fan
stress a
of those.
little.
Although our students do very well on tests, I think that we're a big fan of the test optional.
So,
Catherine, someone asked if you could restate the check-in procedures.
Check-in when they have an hour. In-building time, Sunday through Thursday, is 10 p.m. And so we ask every student to come to the connector desk or to the RHC that is in the lobby there to take and tap their one card into a program that registers it into an Excel spreadsheet. And they have between 10 and 11 to do that. If they want to go to bed at 8 o'clock, we ask them just to touch base with the RHC on call and let them know they're going to bed early. And then once we have that hour of check-in, we look to see who has not checked in, and also those that said they were going to bed early or were sick, and then we go room to room and check all of those students individually. And then after that, we walk through all the halls just to kind of make sure students are where they are supposed to be.
When you say touch base with the RHC, do you mean touch base personally, text, call? How is that?
Typically, it's personally face-to-face. We like to have a face-to-face with each kid every night. Sometimes the RHC may be in a club meeting or things like that. They'll call the on-call phone, and then the RHC will follow up with them.
So they can't tap in when they go to bed?
No. We only
I
allow tap.
misunderstood that.
Yeah.
Maybe tracking devices would help.
Yeah, there you go.
How's about it?
Set up a committee for that.
Yeah, no, I know, I'm not talking ankle bracelets yet.
Will you be having students available to tutor other students that need help this year? Yes, we're running the tutor application process right now. So we will have student tutors again.
We also have an RHC whose focus is academics, who is working with students to set up peer study groups, especially for AP courses, and then also for tests and quizzes. And so there are a lot of opportunities that we're trying to connect students in the residential halls to work on some of their academic pieces as well.
Will any information about that go to commuters? Are they able to participate in any of
They
those?
should be able to participate in that. One of our big goals this year is to be more inclusive of commuters, and they'll receive information by email once the group is set up, and then availability to be able to participate.
Since they mentioned the APs, the registration is earlier, but the school's still paying for them, registering everybody, all of them?
That's correct.
Just wanted to make sure.
We still pay for the AP exams. We handle the registration. It is earlier this year, a little bit different process. So we'll finalize that AP registration in October of this year as opposed to early March. It's been our timetable in the past. I have a question about college counseling and advising how it might differ from school to school. So, for instance, the dancers had a college talk, all the dancers, and that would seemed to go very well. And that focus of that really was, being a dancer and what that looks like, right? Drama has a dedicated class on Wednesday at College Seminar. And I'm in that class from 2 to 3:30 along with Kelly Maxner. And that's the time to work on applications and do things. They're fortunate to be able to have that time in their schedule, okay, to do that, and it's a small group. It works well. Visual artists, again, easier to get as a group. We have our first mandatory, and there's been some students that won't be there, and that's okay, but it is, for the most part, mandatory college meeting in the drawing studio this afternoon, all right? Musicians are a little bit harder to get as a group, and dancers are a little bit harder to get as a group because the schedule varies so much. We had our first college workshop, that was Wednesday on the third floor of Gray. We'll have many, many more. Ms. Wilkins and my goal is that we have met individually with every student by fall break. I've already met with probably 15 students.
You're talking about seniors?
Yeah.
Seniors, yeah, talking about seniors, okay, so, we're asking them to schedule that time with us, okay? We've already put out some blasts to encourage that, and they are coming in, all right? So students will meet with students one-on-one as much as possible for college applications. Some students got it all figured out. We meet a couple times. Some students come to my office or Ms. Wilkins' office every week and just have work time. That's great, okay? So we want to meet them where they're at. We do have some built-in touch points, and again, the music and the dancers, it's a little harder to round up as a group, so we're really relying on them to to come to us and schedule those one-on-one meetings, okay?
Do you do any overview before senior year for
Yes,
students?
we kick off the college admission season with our juniors, and last year we moved it from January to November. And that's with presentations, that's with kind of the nuts and bolts, the typical college talk that a junior might get.
I don't know if they're gonna have this again, but my student found it super helpful if they would do it again. Residence Life had a college prep sort of readiness class, I guess, in the evenings, second semester, and that was really, really helpful. If the RAs or RHCs are willing to do it again, that was really helpful.
There is, that is in the works. I know Mackenzie and McKinsey especially met with Jacob last week or this week to try to again to do some stuff like that.
I have a question then. Since Mitzi's gone, who is the touch point for like
Absences.
absences?
That's
Rocking me.
so we check the HSAP email box for absences. Also, you can directly email it, and some of you have, about an absence.
Okay.
Seriously, I was able to announce to our faculty yesterday that we do have a person, and she's gonna be here on Tuesday, and I will announce her to all of you. Her name is Kim Stiller. She is, she's coming to us with, I think, 17 years of lead secretary experience from West. So she knows Marcy Harvey and Chris Sabolchik from
But
there.
if they have an absence, you also
awesome.
email the arts contact person as well.
Yes, thank you. So Brock and I have been monitoring the voicemail and the general high school office email. There's probably been a little more of a lag than you were used to with Mitzi, but we have been monitoring it regularly. And then Kim will come in on Tuesday. Of course, it'll take her a couple days to get up to speed, but we should be back to normal very soon.
Question probably for Catherine. How much lead time do you need to have requests approved for students leaving for short local trip, for parent checking student out for a long weekend?
Could you repeat that?
Yeah, I'll try to. Basically, how much time in advance does a student need to, or a parent need to make the request with Residence Life if they're gonna be picked up for a long weekend?
Okay, so for a long weekend, it's great to have that information in boardingware submitted the night before so that we're aware that a student is leaving overnight. However, if it's done 15 minutes before the student is leaving, the parent, as long as the parent has approved it through the boardingware software, we're still gonna call you, so you'll need to be available in that 15-minute window if they're getting ready to leave, so that we still have verbal confirmation that they are going on an overnight trip. So all overnight leaves require verbal permission from the parent, as well as the approval by the parent. Short-term leaves, kids are doing 5 minutes before they're walking out the door if it doesn't require parent permission. And if for some reason they're going on a mode of transportation that requires parent permission, as long as we can get one of the parents on the phone, we can do that instantaneous.
So I actually did this last weekend where I checked her out, and I assumed that I had to come into the connector building and be seen or whatever. So I think I understand. I don't have to do that. I can park. She can come and.
No,
No.
so, yes, any
'Cause you said
student
verbal, so-
leaving with any known driver under 25, there's 3 kind of levels of drivers: parent drivers, approved drivers, drivers above the age of 25, and then any driver. Those drivers have to come into the building and show the connector desk, who's on duty, their
ID,
license.
yeah, that's
Even
what
if we've seen you every weekend for the last 10 weekends, you still have to come in and check in with us.
Even if you're a parent.
Even if you're a parent, yep.
I had submitted some past requests. Is there any way to adjust a past request?
Absolutely. We can adjust a pass request when the student is leaving. You can say, oh, I made a mistake, we are really not coming back. So we can do that at that time, or you can go and click the 3 little dots on your pass, and it will give you the option to edit, and then you can edit it as well.
Oh, I missed that. So you can also delete them if you don't need them?
Yeah, and if for some reason you submitted 2 pass requests, we are looking at all the requests sitting there the day after, and any ones that are gone, like they didn't check out on, we delete the pass requests that are outstanding. So a student could request 2 different pass types. For example, maybe they decided to go home for the weekend instead of out to dinner with a parent. They may have already submitted their out to dinner pass, and then they submit a second one. There's no need for you to delete the first pass. We'll take care of that.
Because I didn't use it.
Yep. We rather passes be there and ready to go versus not having it. And if you made a mistake, sometimes we'll decline it when we're talking to you and ask you to resubmit the right pass type. But mostly if a student has done one and a parent's done one, we are getting rid of the duplicates after the kid has signed out on the correct pass.
There's a question, how does this work with Uber?
So Uber, we are not, so every parent gives permissions for kids to ride in an Uber or not ride in an Uber. And we do not require Uber drivers to come in and show their license. Our expectation is they are connected with parent Uber accounts, and you should have all of that information in your personal Uber account of who the driver was, who's picking them up, and we are not tracking licenses of Ubers.
Catherine,
Yep.
on the passes, for overnight with parents, do the parents make the pass or do the kids make the pass, or does it matter?
It doesn't matter, but the parent will have to approve it. If the parent made it, that is their approval. If the student made it, that it'll go to the parent and the parent has to approve it.
Okay. That seemed weird, having to approve. So,
Are you making it?
no, she made it,
She made it.
but I didn't have it, but I did come in and check her out, but.
Then sometimes if you didn't get the email or there's something when you come to the connector desk, we are correcting it, but let us know that you didn't receive the email so that we can go and make sure that the permissions are correct. We are making those corrections as we see them, but if for some reason you're not getting correspondence from Boardingware that you think you should be, let us know. Our fail-safe is the verbal permission as well. That's why, especially with overnight, we always require the verbal permission as well, because some parents have access to their students' emails or vice versa, and a student will approve it, and then we'll have to go back and say, no, parent needs to approve it, but we're always double checking because in some of those cases, maybe Molly is going to Jack's house for the weekend and mom has no idea. So we're trying to make sure that students are going where they're supposed to.
Yeah, she's checking out today and I have not gotten an email. She put in a pass request yesterday, so.
Okay. So we'll talk after.
Okay.
But how would a parent or family know that they're enrolled in Boardingware? Is there any registration or sign up they need to do?
Yes, so all parents were sent an email over the summer, and when students came in for registration, we talked and made sure that parents were connected through Boardingware, and we're constantly updating because some of the email addresses, like the period, might be in the wrong place. And so parents should have already had connection, but your kids would not be able to go anywhere if you haven't filled out the Boardingware. So there's been 2 layers. You filled out the parent permission form, and those permissions are allowing your student to do all types of transportation. And the second layer is the overnight piece, which requires the parent to have their email address connected to Boardingware. And so we don't get the approvals if they're not connected.
As a commuter parent, other than checking in with the Boardingware, is there a need for us to be using it?
No, commuter parents are not using boarding wear at this time.
Just a brief announcement. So is this Coffee Talk archived for future viewing? And the answer is yes.
It usually gets posted about a week afterwards.
Parking when you're coming in to get your student, or just a quick visit, is there a designated parking area either behind the dorms or on the circle, other than where I see posted visitor parking? So. Is that a
There
question?
is visitor
It's
parking.
not a weird question, though.
It's a
I
good
just don't
question.
know the answer.
Okay, so it's not UMass Amherst, I'm not gonna get towed. That's what I'm like.
I think
wondering.
you can rely on mostly not being towed.
That's my only concern.
Or booted. Booted would be the, I think, the bigger concern.
Booting.
Yeah.
Where does that
But
occur?
that's,
Can I make an issue that people please respect the parking, because I know that if anyone has a drama student, I know that the drama professors are dragging props and kids are dragging props, and when there are parents, particularly, I see this all the time, prep, we're the guilty party, the prep dance moms park in designated faculty spots, and you see these professors lugging all of this stuff, and it's for our kids, and you start to go, oh my god, I'm so sorry, so please try and respect the parking.
I parked in visitor
I think any
parking by the
visitor
library
spot.
last night, and it was just kinda dark walking and.
There
I mean,
is visitor parking right behind the dorms. There's about 10 spaces. There's a little bit of faculty, and then it's like, it looks kind of grassy. And then there's about 10 available spaces right behind the connector building and where you can see the backside of the door.
Can you
Where the
walk
swing is.
from those through
Yes.
the field, straight to the,
Straight
not
to the middle
around
door.
towards the police?
No, you can walk straight to the middle
Oh.
door, and your student can let you in, or you can knock on the door, and the person at the connector desk will come and let you in.
They will hear
That's
you.
the gravel spots, right?
Okay.
there.
Yeah, there's like gravel and then there's like
Oh,
a
and
wheelchair
were there
ramp.
signs? Cause we didn't see signs.
It says visitor parking with an arrow,
Oh.
and then it's the rest of
Okay,
that.
sorry.
So I think I understand what you're talking about, that little line of cars that I saw today, and then there's the little lot up here, and then there's the one that's up the stairs?
Not
That's
up the
not allowed.
stairs.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's where I am.
There are visitor spaces up there, anywhere that there's a visitor, yeah, but the closest for the dorms is right behind the dorms, and it's the easiest access,
The one that you drive down and
Yeah,
there's the little.
it's where you unloaded,
Yeah.
kinda, if you
Yep.
moved a student into the dorm, it's right at the back of that grassy area.
That was full.
We call that the backyard.
Yeah, okay. So if that's full and that other one's a faculty lot and we can't do lot B, what are other options for us?
Up a layer where the steps
further
were.
back?
Yeah, so
Further back
further
from
away
lot
from
B.
the back of the
Okay.
dorm. There's also near the admin building, there's a set of visitors parking there as well.
I'll check it out.
behind the library.
Behind the library, right.
Okay. I don't know how to get
Other
there.
than that, it's
I'll figure it out
down
next
by
time.
the
It's the
goal.
second back entrance.
Okay,
Do you know what I mean?
I'll explore.
Okay.
Now that I know I'm looking for the library parking, I'll check it out.
Yeah, you can get there either.
I was sure I had like a surefire parking spot, but now I know it's not good.
I'm
Getting a backlog here.
students, you can pick them up behind Crawford Hall, that's sometimes the easiest place.
Which is Gray Building, which is where the academic classes are.
Yes, okay, I know where that is. So you can park there.
There
If-
there are a
if
couple,
you're not in a
there are a
faculty
couple of
spot.
visitor
And there's also
spaces.
a couple of just short terms.
Do they work on application essays in English? Yes. In every senior English class, they have some version of a personal essay assignment. Real quick, thank you for being here, Catherine. This is Catherine's finishing her first month. You're doing great. With I might add a whole new boarding software. Boardingware is new this year. I think I'm asking this correctly. Verbal permission of the parent who is picking up will be face to face, correct?
Verbal permission does not always happen face to face because you may not be the person picking up your student. Maybe it's
Like last week, we had a student actually drive here from Charlotte to pick up their child, to drive them back to Charlotte for an overnight at home. And so it was on the phone contact was the verbal permission.
And then she had to present herself face to face to take her
The
daughter.
driver had to present
Yeah.
them face to face
Yeah.
so that we made sure that was the correct driver that was supposed to be picking up
Okay,
the
I
student.
understand, all right.
If someone wants to know that they're in the boardingware system successfully, whom should they contact?
Terry Stanley. And her email is Stanley, STANLEY, @uncsa.edu.
So contact Terry Stanley if you have questions about whether or not you're in boardingware successfully, or if you're having problems. Or if you're having problems. How does boardingware work with commuters that may be staying in school overnight? It doesn't.
It doesn't. However, we still require any person staying overnight in the dorms, we require verbal permission from parents of the student that's hosting them, as well as verbal permission from the student's parents who's coming to visit. And we don't allow any visitors that are in college, so even if a sibling was a freshman in college, they're not allowed to stay in the dorm.
Not even your own.
I have a question. So, with the boardingware software, in the past, the connector doesn't really open until like noon on a Saturday or Sunday. In the past, they've made requests Friday night and they've called like home, the connector has. Is that the same process they're doing to
Yes.
verbally confirm?
So we're gonna be opening the connector desk on Saturday and Sundays at 10 a.m. now this year instead of noon. And if a student is leaving before that, they are calling the RHC on-call number so that the RHC can check them out.
Okay.
Is that a,
Yes.
is that
We
one
also have
number?
our next high school assembly on Wednesday. So a lot of these touch points that we're talking about here today, this will be the first time that we've had all students back together. And so I'm a big fan of like rewarding students. And so I know students were upset about the tap-in, but the conversation on Wednesday is gonna be more about thanking them about how much it's improved and how well they're doing, versus, hey, you guys are getting in trouble, and then also kind of letting them know, hey, we haven't written any infractions for this.
Is the RHC on-call number one number, or is it different for each RHC?
It's always one number.
Do you wanna give it? You don't know it? Okay. That's all
I
right.
do know it, hold on.
I just thought that could be useful in the future.
It
They
is.
should have that too on their little magnet, right?
Yes, so they have magnets and they have little key fob things. The high school emergency on-call is 336-414-9545. If parents need emergency help for a student, they can also call that number. And then the connector desk number is 336-770-3281.
Thank you.
Should I be receiving an email for pass requests for the school-sponsored shopping trips?
No, you should not get requests unless the student made the incorrect type of permission, or if the student does not have the availability to travel on a school-sponsored vehicle.
And then when, for other types of passes, when should a parent get the email?
A parent will only get an email asking permission or to approve a boardingware pass if it is an overnight trip or a student's form was filled out by a parent saying they need permission every time they want to Uber. And then they have to do approval via that as well. We can change permissions at any time, but you're getting an email for overnights or a type of permission or transportation, Uber, if you did not give permission for your kid to use that type of transportation.
Do you get notifications as a parent when your student goes on the trips? And I'm not talking about requests for permission, I'm just talking about, oh, my daughter's on this bus to the mall.
So parents do not get notified when their students leave campus. However, you can log into your Boardingware portal, and you can go and look at when your student is leaving and where they're going.
Okay.
So you can see the passes your students have requested, how often they're leaving campus through Boardingware.
And is there a daily permission add-on for Boardingware so that as you want to add drivers to take your student out to lunch or out to church or something like that, that you can actually type it in Boardingware and add them as the permission as opposed to a paper thing?
You can email Terry Stanley and let us know of any updated drivers, and we can add those as we go through the year.
Okay, but right now it's not in Boardingware. Okay, thank you.
Are both parents notified through Boardingware? I assume
If both
Sorry.
parents are connected to Boardingware, which in most cases they are, but if you only provided one contact email for us, it's only one parent. So you would know, or if you would like for us to check, you can email us and let us know, or call.
Gonna let Catherine catch her breath? Yes, go ahead.
Two quick questions. Revisiting the clubs, is there a tab that tells what the clubs are that are new for this year? And I know some of them are just forming.
So we are, that's all right, we are working on a high school programming calendar in Outlook, so that we are trying to be better about having a single location that students can access all of the things we're doing. So clubs, planned trips like to Kernersville, bowling, movie nights, putting all those in a collective place. And even things like commuter, they had a commuter meeting and different types of meetings that are going on, so that we're gonna be rolling that out probably next week to students, but we're working on compiling all the information that we have right now, and that would be a place where that's going to be talked about. And then in our assembly next week, we're also gonna talk a little more about clubs and interest level and how to connect if you're interested in joining more clubs. Right now, we only have a handful, and the peer leaders or the club student leader is working on getting memberships for those. At some point in the next 2 weeks, we'll also have a club fair where we can kind of present information where kids that are interested in clubs can kind of get a centralized location that they can become interested in more than one club or something in particular.
So last year you were putting it all on Instagram. Instagram was a great resource. That's how I found everything
Yep.
out. I don't know if it was on Snapchat or not, but, so are you?
So we're also using the Instagram as well, but that's more instantaneous, like what's going on in the moment, versus I'm looking at very planned, long-term, semester-long meetings and things like that. Kids also get a monthly printed calendar each month with major events, but it's a way to keep updating as we go through the months.
I actually have a non-Catherine question. But I promised my daughter I'd ask this. It's about the meal plan in the cafeteria. She's a dancer. She just won't eat at the cafeteria. I know a lot of dancer stuff. She does the meal, you get like a certain amount of meal replacements per week so you can go to the library caf or pickle jar. So that's where she's eating. I'm just wondering, that number, why, it seems kind of arbitrary, and like if you guys had smoothies in the cafeteria, she would go there, but I don't quite understand how it's set up. While there's certain foods you're allowed to replace, certain foods you're not allowed to replace. It's our favorite topic of conversation.
That's a good question.
And unfortunately, I think one that I know I can't answer accurately, I think we're taking some notes
I know
to
you've
try.
probably heard about dancers and smoothies and not eating in the cafeteria, but
You know,
I'm spending a lot of money for her to go buy her food outside of the campus and put it in her refrigerator, so.
I will say, you know, I can understand if there's 3 meals a day in the cafeteria, but, you know, when I do go in the cafeteria, I see a lot of dancers in there. And I see them, you know, taking advantage of the salad bar and the vegan options, but no smoothies. So, and that would probably be a better question that could be run through our student government. Often, every year they have a get-together with food service and talk about issues and offer suggestions, and that might be an avenue for that.
The nutrition.
But, you know, an answer we can, I mean, I don't know why they allow
They allow like
whatever the number
5 or
is.
6, like you can trade, trade
They get
your.
one a day per week.
Yeah, yeah, so,
So we can ask that, at least so you know why it is the way it is.
While we're waiting.
So apparently there was a breach with the Outlook email this week, with some kind of email about adult sites. Since then, my daughter has gotten a request for, companionship and business partner. And so she's like screenshotting it and texting it to me, and I mean, I'm not at home to look at her Outlook, but I have it at home. So is there something we can do about that? I mean, she's good about telling me, obviously, but.
The best thing she should do is that there's a little link that you can click on in your email to like report, I'm not sure, like report spam.
Okay.
And if you click on that, it immediately gets sent to IT.
Excellent. Okay.
And that's,
She just, while we were in this meeting, she just texted me too.
yeah, thank you.
Back to the dining hall just real quick. Are there sandwiches there?
Yes.
Okay, I'll have to find out where they are. I've been having complaints about that.
They're on the other side of the salad bar island,
I will direct her to say that.
kinda close to the cookies.
Next to the hummus.
Next to the hummus, all right.
Oh, I've worked in a lot of boarding schools, and the food is good here. It's varied and
I haven't
good.
experienced much worse university food.
I think it's pretty good.
But I mean, I don't, and I'm not just saying we should be happy with mediocre food. I don't think the food is mediocre in there, and there really are a lot of options, and they're also very receptive to requests. And so, you know, they are dealing with numbers. We're dealing with, you know, 2,500 people, but given the volume that they're trying to feed, I've found them to be very receptive. It's not to say that it's perfect, but it just.
But it would be great to have a meal plan that worked at all of the, like at the library cafe and the people talk to you on social thing.
Yeah, and
it would be simpler.
I will certainly ask the question about kind of the logic behind the replacement plan and the number and what can be replaced.
Got a couple real quick I think we can take care of. The question came up about, this is from a new parent, we don't weight grades, AP grades, right? Many schools do weight grades. There are schools that don't. You know, we are one of them. How does that affect a student in the college admissions process? I will say with great confidence, after having been in both worlds, that your student is better off with an unweighted grade point average. It's a truer measure of the work. If you take an AP course, it's there in the course title. I've had admissions officers tell me they like to see that because it shows that the student took that course for the right reason. They weren't in the rigor. They weren't playing a numbers game to try to get into a certain position in their class rank.
Yep.
And then many times they strip that weighted GPA off anyway. So, and I think we could talk, you know, I think we have evidence, hard evidence of that is the case.
Can I just add to that,
Yes.
to emphasize what Brock was saying? It says on your student's transcript and application, that these are unweighted, so
That's right.
colleges know that.
Right. And you're not compared, if you have an unweighted GPA, you're not compared in the college admissions process to a weighted GPA, right? If you come from a public.
You
Yeah.
report
Yeah,
the
Right.
Yeah,
unweighted anyway.
that's right, that's right. So, you know, I can understand the question, you know, particularly if you're coming from a public high school, right?
Are we still not, the classes are still not ranked, right? Are they ranked now?
That's-
Because
they're-
Chapel Hill's like, you have to be 10%.
Yeah, they're not ranked. Now, we can provide a rank if you need it specifically for, and oftentimes it's a scholarship, and oftentimes it's a scholarship that hasn't really caught up to standards of reporting grades yet, and they're still wanting an unweighted grade point, the class rank rather, and we can provide that. When we, you know, in some cases, we will also provide a decile rank, top 10, top 20, top 30%, if a student would like to report that. But there's also, like on the common application, and on most applications, there is a box, my school does not rank, okay? And that's okay. Over half our students are new, over half our seniors are new every year, from so many different school systems, it's like, it would really be probably unfair.
So we had a question what our Instagram handle was. It's UNCSA _ HS Life, LIFE. UNCSA _ HS Life, high school life.
Sorry.
Are they still using the old one then, or no? Because there used to be the UNCSA HS.
That's it.
No,
No,
there's
there's
that one
another
and then the
one.
_ one. There's two.
There are
The
couple.
stuff's on both.
I think it's probably updating both. Can you see? It
The
is
last-
updating
Different
both.
updates, but
There's
they're
different updates.
updating on both of them.
Okay, they are updating on both, okay.
But they're not the same.
I'll look into that.
My daughter's a dancer, and I'm still very confused about how to get the foreign language requirement in.
Summer school.
Summer.
Yes, so it's
hard
important
to
to realize, our academic calendar schedule of classes and when students take classes is really dictated by the conservatories, right? They carve out the time they need for the conservatory experience and they say, academics, you have this. And what has been the practice, and I think it's a puzzle, but to address your question, 9th and 10th grade dancers have 4 academic slots, and it's math, social studies, science, and English. Okay. We understand that sometimes a 9th grader took Spanish, French 1, German 1 in 8th grade, right? And we don't like the gap in between the sciences. So we have, this summer, we had about 13 dancers take an online language with the North Carolina Virtual Public School to get the 2nd credit or even the 1st credit of the language. Okay, we could do that. If a dancer waits and just wants, and some dancers just want to do the curriculum as it's designed and take the foreign language the 11th and 12th grade year. And when we do that, what we do is we usually push that typical 11th grade social studies into the senior year, or we push that 3rd science into the senior year and fit the foreign language. We could do 2 years like that, or perhaps a common path for a student would be, a dance student would be take 10th grade, take a language online, come back and take it in the classroom the 11th grade year, take U.S. history or physics or environmental science the senior year, as opposed to during that junior year.
So dancers get the 4 academic blocks each year.
That's correct. Musicians have a 5th class opportunity during 9th and 10th grade. So our musicians, in that 5th class, in most cases, it's going to be a language class, a world language class, French or Spanish. Some choose not to do that and just have the 4, but if they want to take a 5th class, that they have that opportunity. Does that answer your question?
Language class with them.
Yeah.
For North Carolina Virtual Public School, if your child wants to take the next level of foreign language during the summer, when would they need to know that and sign up for it? Or find out if it's possible?
So we'll meet with all students beginning in March to do course planning for the fall. That's when we outline that summer course, and then the school does the registration. It's free for our students, even if you're not from North Carolina.
The thing I didn't know about that was that it's not like other online courses where you can kind of do it on your
No.
own pace and your own time.
structured.
So it's very structured and it's like between this date and this date. And
It's not
so
rolling.
my son was going to do it and then it turned out that well, he couldn't do it at the same time as he was doing his summer intensive music experience. And I thought there was gonna be more flexibility over the course of the summer. So just
And that happens
good
with
to
the
know.
dancers too.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised there were 13 that
Yeah,
were
they
able
do.
to fit
It's
it
a
in.
bummer. They go back to the residence hall during their intensives and do the language, right? The other option that you can do in any arts is just do something totally independent of us. Enroll at Indiana University Online High School, Brigham Young University Online High School, take German, French, Spanish, Mandarin, Japanese.
Yeah, history.
Well, that's another question. And do something totally independent of us. And those programs give you a year. You could register today, start tomorrow, and you have a year to complete it. You can work in your downtime. Now, the way that works, we attach that BYU transcript or IU transcript to our UNCSA transcript to show that the student took those credits, and that is not an issue with colleges. Okay, but it doesn't calculate into the GPA. Okay, so if you take an NCVPS course, it does calculate it. That's a transfer credit within our.
Does it count for their high school requirement? Like, does it count
Yes.
as a dual enrollment course?
No, it counts as their high school requirement. It's a high school course.
It's a high school course,
Yeah.
right?
It's
Even if
high
it's a
school-
college course.
It's a high school.
Not the
course.
Virgil Public High School. I'm saying if you take those other ones
Yeah,
you mentioned.
they're high school
They are
courses.
high school
Each of those
courses,
programs
right.
actually have high school diploma online programs.
Do you have a list of those? I mean,
In
I
my
could Google
office,
it.
I do.
but-
Now, to that question, all graduation requirements, world history, US history, chemistry, or science, biology, English, have to be taken in the classroom. We value that classroom experience. That's what makes us different. And that's many reasons our students and parents are here, because we value that brick and mortar classroom experience. But we want to be flexible. We want to accommodate language, because that's the sticky point with the schedule. Okay?
And you could go beyond the 3 years.
Yes, we've also had students take a course we don't offer over the summer, like anatomy and physiology. Okay, and that's doable too.
Would that count as a science though?
Yeah, it'll count as an additional elective science. It won't count as a graduation requirement towards science.
Like 2 of my daughter's friends last year took AP Calculus BC because the school can't offer that.
That's right.
How did
So
they do it?
They did it on North Carolina Public School.
That was for somebody that was asking me that.
For the
Yeah.
parents who are looking at it for the summer, I know it's a lot more regimented, but they really do have some flexibility. You'll have a live class they have to do once a week. They'll offer 3 or 4 different times. It's not ideal if you're trying to squeeze it into a summer intensive, but it can work.
It is literally an entire year in 5 weeks.
Yes, so it is a lot of work.
So it is exactly the same as Spanish 2 that they
I
would
mean,
take
it's
in 5 weeks.
It's about 3 to 4 hours every night
Yeah.
of schoolwork. It is a full year's course. My daughter did 2 last year. She did 8 hours every day.
So I can
Yeah,
tell
so it's a more
that
intense.
BYU and Indiana University enrollment's probably gonna go up after that.
I mean, I was impressed with its rigor. I definitely was. I wish she could have done it.
They really do learn a lot though, and those teachers they communicate much better than I thought an online course teacher I'd ever seen communicate. They keep you updated on your child's scores, what's due, what's this, and they keep the students updated. They communicate with them a lot. So while it is a lot of time, like I said, the 8 hours is because she took 2 and one was like an honors anatomy, I think, so that was really difficult. But those language, they really do offer different live times. It's not, you can't make it work.
Did you get?
I think I almost know the answer to this question, but if you had a kid, say, go through and get to the end of 12th grade, and could that summer still be the end summer of 12th grade? Could that be, or that's just too late?
We've had that happen in a couple instances where we may have a senior that comes to us that For whatever reason, that school was gonna enroll them in 2 credits of that language the senior year, 1 in the fall, 1 in the spring. So they come to us with nothing, right? They can still graduate, but we wanna make sure they have the language credits for college admissions. So we've enrolled them in Spanish, French 1 with us, and then they've done the summer school. Or we've enrolled them in Spanish with 1 with us, and then about March, they go ahead and enroll in BYU or IU for the 2nd unit, and they crank it out. And you have to spend a minimum of 6 weeks on it, and they crank it out and have it. I have a student this year. It did take us took the first course with us. They're coming to UNCSA. UNCSA needs that credit, and so they finished up in the summer, and that was not a problem. At other schools, it's not as smooth sometimes, but just because of UNCSA, they know it's coming. They know that that's a process for us. It's
just because I think that I'm sure it's true for all of the kids, some of the summer intensives seem more intense than even the school year.
Sure.
There's a question about the, where to go with one card problems. It's on the website, but that number is 336-770-1429. 770-1429, or you can email them at one card.
And isn't there an office down by
Yep.
the mailbox?
Right below us here. One card at uncsa.edu.
Quick follow-up on the virtual public school. Is that by period set? And if so, are those dates published? And when
It actually
did
has 8 weeks.
8 weeks?
Some schools 8 weeks.
And then how do you look to find exactly what?
So the website nvds.org. And they have calendars posted.
And if we don't offer it here, it's available. Yes, there's some restriction on that. We don't want to overload the student schedule. So it couldn't be a 5th class for a dancer. Coming back to the mission of the university, we're a conservatory. That time's needed for training, right? So we don't want to overload a schedule. So it wouldn't be as a 5th class if you were a junior, right? Or it wouldn't be So
as a
it's really
6th class. It's really summer, and in some instances, we do it in the school year for our seniors that, they'll take 3 here, and they need German 2, or they want to take German 3, and they've met all their other graduation requirements, and we feel that that's a good reason, and we would, because seniors can take 2 to 3 academic courses, and so they might use a 4th course as an online course.
And I guess sort of along those lines, we got a question about, do we do National Honor Society? And we don't. A big part of it is the time commitment. We also don't have a formal structure set up to account for the service hours. And so we haven't offered that, and that's unfortunately part of coming here. I will say, our kids have authentic stories to tell in the admission process that they go through, that sets them apart. And we don't have students suffering in that admissions process because the school can't figure out who we are. It just doesn't happen. And I don't know. I mean, I think you can count on that, and your student can count on that. It's a transition because they're coming from these places where there are all of these other extracurricular opportunities, and it seems like the menu has been narrowed here, and it certainly has. But we've expanded it in really profound ways that we think will serve them better.
I think it's good.
Do you need to formalize closing off any of those avenues? Let's say if your kid were in one of those honor society or what, it just doesn't matter, right?
And they still
It won't look like they didn't do what they were
No, they
supposed
still
to
can
do.
use it on the resume that, you know, in ninth and tenth, eleventh grade at my previous school, I was in honor society. But when I came here, when I was accepted here and became one of 120 seniors in the world of having this experience, I had to get that off, right?
But you don't need
Mine didn't even
to
want to
write
be
anything to anybody, the logistics are fine, okay.
There was a question here, if we didn't get to some of the questions, and I think that that's possible,
It's very
will we follow up with the email response and public response if warranted? Yes. This one I can handle quickly. There were orientation weekend videos on student life. They said were very good. Will there continue to be presentations on acceptable, unacceptable social behaviors, interactions, bullying, harassment for all students? Yes. And there was a suggestion that maybe we'd separate out, do a res life coffee talk next year. I think, and that's good. It will be interesting to see with the boarding wear. I mean, I think this is a big part of it, because it just comparing it to the general coffee talk last year, it wasn't quite so check-in heavy, check-in procedure heavy, but that's a good option for us going forward. Thank you all. Yeah, you want to do
Just
one
one quick question, because I think this is interesting.
Yeah.
We have, at this point, we have 256 high school students. Okay? This is interesting, 28 are ninth graders, have 110 seniors. 77 11th graders and 41 10th graders. Okay, it's interesting. 77. We take on students, some students come to us for 1 year, that senior year, some come as a junior for 2 years, some come as.
And how many total are new freshmen out of that 256? I mean, out of the 28?
How many are
They're
new?
new? Oh, no, they're all
All
new.
new.
Sorry. That was really the.
I just, because that was a I had a couple questions that just wanted to know that number.
It's interesting too.
right?
It is really interesting.
Something happens, I don't want to take time, but, that ninth graders, 20 of them are dancers out of the 20.
That's
I get the
what
impression there's.
That's a big difference. That's
Seventh grade, things level out.
Was it?
Dance and music about even in
still
11th grade.
dance.
And then we have the visual arts program that brings on another about
What programs do you offer freshmen?
dance and music.
How many of them are commuters? Do you have that number?
Last year it was most of them.
I don't have that number. I do have I have an in-state, out-of-state based on the information I have, which is like,
Do you have plans to offer the other emphasis younger?
no.
How many dancer freshmen do you have in residence life? That's another Catherine question. You don't know.
I don't know I'd have to pull it up and look at it.
Oh, I see.
You know, we have had some students that enrolled but didn't come, so last minute made some decisions to do something else. So I think we started out with 262.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Appreciate you being here.